Tango 1 at the top, we are at follow protocol. 10-4, Tango 1, you have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action. Find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple.
You're ruining the Tango 1 podcast.
Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
Welcome to the Tango 1 podcast. I'm Tony Smith, retired cop and attack team leader. I'm the owner and the founder of the Garage Gym and Tango 1 Solutions. My co-host, as always, is my friend, fireman, amateur stuntman, Casey Wright. Our mission is to challenge you week in, week out to live that tactical life, take immediate action plan against your problems and your weaknesses. Simply put, we want you to do more and be more. So we thought we'd come on today and shoot something a little bit different. Just Casey and I are going to talk about this awesome weekend we just had, man. So
absolutely. On the idea of tactical awareness, this weekend we were blindfolded, bombs were going off, got tased, we're shooting guns, we're running through the woods. Pretty wild weekend and a fun experience, I think, for everyone who was involved. So just my overview of it all. Whole weekend started.
Let's just make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. So like the B.L.A.S.T camp that we just ran in Kingsville.
Right. So Tony's B.L.A.S.T camp, basic leadership and survival tactics camp, where we have 15 guys all signed up for it. And going through the whole weekend, we just worked together to achieve some stuff and do some cool shit. So Friday we started off, Friday afternoon. We showed up at the Kingsville gym and garage door open to one of your former members of the SWAT team who ran us through some pretty grueling workouts just to start the weekend off, get everyone's mind fighting itself, basically what it looked like at the start. From there, blindfolded a couple guys, threw them in the trucks, and we were off to unknown location in the woods. From there, once we started set up camp, then what was the first thing? We had the scavenger hunt, basically. So you split us off into teams.
We wanted to just get you guys there right away, get you uncomfortable, get you kind of, breathing heavy, and then right away working together. So that, once we got right into that, we don't want to blow everything that we do at this camp, but once we got you guys moving, and it was like right away, you start to see a bond form. And that was like the biggest thing, is to right away to try to establish some trust between not us and you, but you guys and you guys.
Definitely, and that's a big thing. There's a lot of guys who didn't know each other, I guess, at the start of the weekend, so you're starting to look around and see who's doing what. And once we were at camp, now we're split off into two teams to begin with, so now these are your group of guys. This is your team that you're going to depend on for the weekend. And our first little bit was, won't give everything away, but we were basically given our weighted vests and a map, and we had to go find some items in the woods. I think we had 2 or 3 hour window to get as much as possible. So in that, working together as a team to get through it. And you and Bart just drove around and laughed at everyone who was panting throughout the woods.
You were also given one more thing. So you were given an opportunity. We gave you the opportunity, we gave you the rules, and basically the only rules that camp were there's 4 ways to leave, I guess. 1 is injured, which almost happened. 2 would be to quit. So you can hand in, we give you a patch, you're able to hand that thing back to us at any point. We're going to drive you back to civilization. Or the other way was that we would actually take that patch for you. Because we have like a rule in this gym and in my camps and everywhere in general, any team I run, is no assholes allowed. So if you were going to be a dick and you were going to break some of our rules, whether they be our morals or like kind of the code, or just not putting any effort in, we would just strip you of that privilege to be there. And then the other way, the best way, which is the way that all 13 guys finished, even the guy who almost broke his foot, was to complete the course successfully, which everybody did, right?
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely. So now we're in the woods, we're running around for 2 hours looking for items, running through little streams, finding stuff here and there you guys placed. And then at the end of it, all showed up back at camp, and there was some winners and losers, but we won't get too much into that at first. So following that, you had one of your instructors come down. This guy was in the Canadian military, SWAT team. he started off our first lesson of the day. I think it was in tactical combat casualty care. So he starts going on our makeshift whiteboard and going through kind of what happens with field experience and when something goes wrong and how to take care of it, which I think is a huge lesson for day one, because if something were to happen and someone goes down, you got to act immediately and right away. So first of all, where did you meet Chris and how did he get involved in this camp?
Right, so Chris Lusso, he was with ETF in Toronto, which is just the same as ESU. It's just a different way they call it, emergency task force up there. Chris was he was kind of like a mentor to me. We started doing a lot of work with Toronto SWAT and Windsor SWAT combined because of all the guns and drugs that run between our two cities. So Chris and I had the opportunity to work some massive projects. I think the biggest projects I ever worked were alongside with Chris, as I ran this end of it and he ran the GTA's end of it. I even went up there and helped them to execute a warrant. So I just knew Chris was the right guy. He's a guy that him and I have obviously stayed in touch. I put together when we were still doing that job, a team leader symposium, because one of the things I realized is that we never really got trained to lead. We got all these different courses for all these different things in SWAT, but leadership was not one of them. So Chris kind of like took the right hand to me on that one and used his experience and kind of guided me as I went around the province trying to better the leadership qualities of everybody. So I just knew he was the right guy. And, Chris and I spoke about it, and, combat care, I think people kind of listen to that like, what the hell do I need that for? We don't live in Detroit and it's, it's not just for bullet wounds. Combat care, I think, and we tried to give you guys skill sets to make you the idea was to make you into a weapon in a way, but a weapon that can allow you at home to do what you need to do. And being able to place a tourniquet on somebody or deal with a traumatic injury is something that you should be able to do. You with fire, but with other guys, we pointed out, one guy's a contractor. So what something happens on your job site? One guy's at a cottage. You should know these skills that might keep you or your family members alive. And I hope we got some of that stuff across to you guys.
Definitely. And just the lesson to act. As soon as you see something happen, don't be the person waiting for the next guy to step in. I think a lot of the lessons Chris taught you is one with that education is now you can actually be the guy to step in and help out. So we're going to come back to a few more lessons from him in a bit, but I just want to continue with what this weekend went through. So finally at the end of the night, we are given the okay to go to bed, I believe, for a little bit. I knew this wasn't going to last long, but some other people might have been thought otherwise. So middle of the night, I don't know what time it might have been, 2 a.m.
Rude awakenings
started happening, and everyone's rushing up out of the tents. So I thought, we got two teams. Team A gets on one side, Team Bravo, which I was a part of, line up on the other, and there's a scenario in the middle of the night, and Team A all of a sudden is together, they're hearing the next thing, and they're off into the woods. And I'm looking around, looking for the remainder of my crew, wondering what's going on. Pretty rude awakenings. How is somebody still sleeping right now? And the next step was, because guys weren't there, we're doing burpees, we're pushing tires, and all of a sudden one guy comes up, John shows up, and we're all shocked as to how did you sleep through this and what is going on? And do you remember exactly what he was doing?
Yeah, he was getting dressed. So, one thing that taught me right away though was if you're going to talk leadership, clearly I didn't make it known enough that the expectations of what a wake up call out would be like. And so that was one thing that we made right away notes of, Chris and I and Bart, was to make sure that got rectified immediately, be it through communication with you guys or through communication from one of you guys from us. So that was one of the things right away. That's a new life for some people. They've never been on a... Yeah, when a lot of people get called into work, it's okay, I'm going to make my sandwich, I'm going to have a coffee, go to work. When you're a SWAT guy or a first responder, when you get called into work, it's you need to be ready to go.
No, it's true. It's a lesson that you don't think that needs to be said, I guess, sometimes, and it was almost overlooked. And we got together as a group after, and it was just kind of ingrained for me, being on call with fire is your pager goes off, you have to be out of the house in seconds. You have to be out as quick as you can, and you take it for granted, right? So my tactics are, I know exactly, if I'm going to bed at night, I know exactly where my shorts are at the end of the bed. I know where my pair of socks are. My keys are always in the same place. So when it goes off at 2 or 3 a.m., you're not thinking, you're just by the time you know what you're doing, you're halfway to the hall.
But let's apply that to like life in general. So one of the things I try to teach with the guys that I coach, outside of this group and within this group is that the key to success tomorrow is what you do today. So planning before you go to bed. So if you're a first responder and you need to pack a kit bag, a ready-go grab bag, then do it. But if you're a guy who gets up, like me, the new me, I get up and I work on my computer. I set up things so I'm ready to work the second my alarm goes off, and I can be more efficient, take away my excuses and the delay of getting things accomplished. So really, like this, although we geared it a lot like a SWAT Hell Week, or like the things I've gone through and organized before, we really wanted to make sure that you could apply all these lessons to an everyday general pop type of job. And I hope that's what got
it's as simple as packing your lunch the night before, right? If you know your time frame in the morning and how many times does it happen you pack your lunch the night before or you don't that day, and then what do? You go to Subway, you grab some shitty food just because you didn't take the time to do it the night before.
So it's a cycle, right? It just starts a bad cycle.
It's just getting in those routines or getting in those mindsets to basically these little lessons that you can pick and choose from throughout the whole weekend, and there's so much you can apply it to. So moving forward through this evening, we got maybe a couple hours of sleep. The next day, a few more of your friends show up. We had some of your former SWAT guys show up, and now we're doing a bunch of fun things. We're running through obstacle courses. I think at one point we were blindfolded once again, throwing around. We were bumping around in the back seat of cars trying to disorientate ourselves, and then we're thrown into, say, a field, and now you have to work together. And again, you can't see anything, and now you have to work together as a team to accomplish a goal, something like finding something.
A communication, right? Team building drill.
Yeah, so this is something that you used with the SWAT team when you were there, obviously, and then kind of describe exactly what it is, if you can reveal.
Yeah, I mean, things. I don't want to take away any tricks because obviously, though, next time we're going to do some things differently. So, I mean, first of all, part of the reason why we wake you up at night and then why we woke you up again so early, and let's not fail to mention, I think it got to freezing, even though it was like very warm and sunny that day. It got to freezing overnight. So
it's comfortable.
You guys were made to be uncomfortable on purpose. I feel like when you're tired, that's when your worst characteristics come out. It's also when you're best. And it's kind of a lesson that you just, no matter what happens in your day, you still have to meet your responsibility, or in your night, you still have to meet your responsibilities during the day. So yeah, the team building drill, we just find that's very, very effective. Put you under some stress, link you guys up, however, that was your decision how you wanted to link up. But to make too many people, like when you go to communicate, it's not precise, it's not exact, and it's very ramblish. And this drill really forces whoever's responsibility to be the team leader to communicate. But also, like a point that we kept hitting home with the two teams was that you got to be a good follower, I think. And everybody, like, there's great characteristics being a leader, but all leaders were pretty good followers. And if your group isn't following, and if you're not being a follower when it's not your position to lead, you kind of like almost throw a wrench into the whole project. And it was coming evident at some points in that thing, but then watching guys gear it down and guys talk calmly. And as soon as like the adrenaline came down and the comms became clear and the communications became calm and clear, the work went better. I mean, the work increased, right? So you guys became more efficient and you found what you needed to do.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. I'm listening to a book right now, and the big takeaway right now is just like, it's paralysis by overanalysis.
Oh, which book?
Right? Left to Bang. That's the one Chris Lusso actually recommended while we were doing this course. And it talks all about left to bang being the event. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an explosion or something like that. And it's, instead of reacting after something has happened, it's being kind of aware of your scenarios and seeing how to, geared towards military and police and security, how to basically profile not on people, but on situations.
Well, that just leads kind of into Chris's next thing, right? Which is the OODA loop.
Yeah.
Right? So observe, orient, decide, and act. And that's how a SWAT guy, and that's how I want you guys at the garage gym as employees here or team members here to act too. So yeah, absolutely, man. Observe, orient, decide, act, instead of just react to everything.
Exactly. And then back to where you're talking about so many people coming up with ideas, it doesn't mean they're wrong, but it was one of the big thing was look for the best action, not the perfect action. Because the perfect action is going to take you, you're going to run through in your head, then you're going to see kinks in it, then you're going to reassess, do something else. And by the time you come to that perfect scenario, the event's already happened, or, you know, especially in a police scenario, shit's already gone wrong.
Well, Aji and Paulie, the two SWAT operators and Spinner, but Aji hit on it the most with you guys was, yeah, at a certain point, a leader needs to say, okay, guys, I've got all your information. I've considered it all. And I took some of it, none of it, or all of it. You guys hear me say that all the time. And this is what we're going to do, because the spear needs to move in one direction, right? All heads need to be pointing in one direction for this to work. And on a SWAT call, and I'm sure Fire has something like this, although I don't know much about it. On a SWAT call, we have things we call immediate action plan and deliberate action plan. Mm-hmm. Deliberate action plan is my absolute perfect situation. And that's when I get all 18 guys there. I have all the equipment I need, all the resources. This is the perfect way to resolve this situation. Immediate action plan is, and both plans are ever changing, but the immediate action plan is like, okay, right now there's 3 of us. What do we do if? How do we resolve the situation if we need to? And move, right? And it just got to keep going through that OODA loop constantly revolving. And, you know, indecision is the worst decision.
Definitely.
Make a decision, move forward together.
And then continue off that. Like what you said, it definitely relates, especially in on-call fire or volunteer fire, is when you show up to a call, you don't know who's responding, essentially, right? You don't know the exact numbers. So you might have 3 people on that first truck. So now you get to a scenario, and like you're saying, the captain and leader has to make a decision. What do the 3 of us have to do right now to take immediate action? What can we start doing with this group? And then as more guys roll in, now it's, okay, let's reassess. Now we have 5 guys. What can we do? What's the next step with 6 of us, 10 of us? And as it grows, continuing to make these, as opposed to sitting at that front door and letting this building burn down until we get that perfect 10-man team that we can perfectly run an operation off of.
And this happens every day in business. One of the guys on the course was sharing a problem where he was making supplements, and the bags showed up. They ordered it. It was their mistake, but the bags showed up and they're 1 pound bags, and they intended for it to be 2 pound, like 2 pounds was supposed to go in a 1 pound bag basically, and it didn't work. So, I mean, right away, you got to observe the problem. Orient, what they did was like, they decided to have like, okay, 1 pound sample bags, decide we're going to go forward with this. We're going to cancel the rest of the bags, continue with our 2 pound plan, and act, right? And like those guys, it applies. If you just look at things in a real simple way, make the best. I mean, even training, it's all about optimal training for suboptimal conditions. And if you're always training your brain and your mind for that, you're going to be more ready when it comes around to making decisions, and then making, you know, seemingly less complex decisions like a bag problem very easy to handle.
Exactly. Breaking it down to that, something such as simple as like, we got 1 pound bags instead of 2 pound bags.
Yeah,
let's market 1 pound bags, right? Instead of looking at it as, oh, we're fucked because the wrong order came in. It's as simple as, okay, let's look what we have. Let's maybe change our action, figure out what's going on, and let's just move forward with it. And then as the 2 pound bags show up in a week from now, you've already sold some product, you're already on the proper line, and you're moving forward.
And that's what I love to hear, man, because that in itself is leadership. Like, leadership is not, good leaders aren't formed under normal circumstances. It's under stress. And whatever that stress in your business, your life is, your family, that's when your time to shine. Make a decision, move forward, make the best of a situation. The action might have already happened. Your reaction to it is within your control. And if you actually take a second to observe, right? Mm-hmm. Orient, decide, act. That's how we talk about everything constantly in the tactics. And I was loved that Chris was able to get that lesson across to you guys.
Definitely. And I think that's a big point too, is like, how often do people do a boot camp style thing, or have an opportunity to, or reason to almost, right? I think that's what this weekend showed a lot, because I was able to do a boot camp for Fire Academy, and I loved it because it was like this. You know, in the first 5 days, I think I slept 8 hours combined, and you're running through drills, you're getting called out in the middle of the night. But what I liked about it is it does break people down, and that's, you see true selves come out, right? The hotshot who shows up day 1, who's all this, by day 3, when he's underslept, he doesn't have the energy to present this front to you, is now slipping his way to the back of the pack or things. And then people who are true leaders and have these good, like, positive mindsets start to push their way, and you could actually see who people are. And these camps break people down into that. And this camp specifically is like, that's a scenario where it's all people wanting to do fire
Yeah,
or
one
one job, right?
One
Where
task.
this is, you have business owners, you have people in real estate, you have people all over the spectrum, sort of, but it's the exact same lessons, and you see the exact same kind of people coming out.
Yeah.
And
you know what's beautiful about this thing is that really I didn't see nobody really came in with that. We didn't, at all the SWAT camps I've ran, there's always a couple who came in with that kind of arrogant swagger to them and quickly got exposed. In this one, nobody really came in with that. And maybe it was just a different mindset of coming to learn, or not being a job, or maybe because they paid for it. I'm not sure. But all we saw was people improve. When we saw some mistakes, we saw some leadership mistakes, we saw communication mistakes, but that's what we wanted, because that's what you learn from. But everybody got better over the course of the week. And what's really cool about that is everybody got better despite being tired.
Yes.
And physically beat down, and emotionally beat down and cold.
just mentally better. You see, the cool thing was there's people coming in with who have some things going on in their job or in their thing, and just like the people are standing up taller at the end of the weekend. I think that was a big thing I noticed the most, is
great
you
way to
see
put
a
it.
couple people who are just slouching, and they have legitimate reasons to be. But as the weekend went on, as these cool experiences happened, as like smiles came out, they saw the camaraderie with people, they start to stand up a little taller. And then even though these might be huge real world scenarios in their everyday life, in this camp and in these days, it's minor, or it's something that they can just push through and see a different light towards.
And we were like, the purpose of this camp, this was a man's camp. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that women can't develop these same characteristics. It's just putting women into the mix of that group probably would have messed with some of the communication that went on. And Danny and I are already talking about doing one of these for the women. If you are listening and you're interested in this, I think it is something that I think these lessons are to be learned by everybody. I just feel like from a sharing perspective, and some of the things that we talked about, the self-awareness is just better served with keeping it men together in one group. So the purpose of this camp is to develop warrior, like I talk about the values, the tattoos on my neck, that's what it means. Warrior and protector. I think that's a thing that a father, a leader, a man, no matter what your beliefs are two things that you naturally need to develop. And I think self-awareness is one that we're really missing as men. And strength has really gone by the wayside for men. Those are the 4 values. And I, why do we need them all? I think if you're a dad or you're a team leader, the way that you walk in, the first like visual somebody gets of you, and that's what I used to say on SWAT calls even, is like the first use of force was how we looked, how we confidence, how we carried ourselves, how our chest stood, or stood proud. And that's one thing that I want to really see come out in people. And in some guys in particular who came in with their shoulders, slouched over, seeing them stand taller and seeing them speak taller and speak more confidently. I mean, that's the first impression you're going to make, whether you're going, you're a young man like Seamus going to work for a job, or you're a guy who's in his mid 40s, who's kind of like trying to find themselves again. Because a lot of the purpose behind this, a lot of these guys too, was a Ben Franklin quote, men turn 25 and they are buried, but they don't die till they're 75 or something. It's something like that. And it's kind of sad, and it's kind of true. You kind of lose your identity sometimes when you become a parent. And we really wanted to bring that out in the men this week. In 3 days, I think we did as much as we could for that.
See it. You see guys you see them fucking be guys at the end of it, and like other things too. Like, so now
Blowing shit up helps too, right?
Blowing shit up. Day 2,
carrying stuff and
day 2, a
shooting
friend
stuff.
shows up with a couple rifles, and I don't care who you are. Again, Canadians, we don't have as much exposure to weapons. Maybe in the States a little different, so this might be funny to that. But we got to shoot some rifles, we got to blow up some pumpkins, we got to do some cool things that just make you feel good. It was new experiences for me, definitely. And again, it's like riding a jet ski.
I mean,
it's
there's
hard
lot
to
of
have a
testosterone.
frown on your face when you're doing those things. So even that, the fun part of the weekend as well is like you're beating people down and you're running through some things, but being able to do these fun experiences and excitement, like it just makes people feel
at one
good.
point in that camp, that afternoon when we were shooting with Mark Wollacombe from the gym, who's a tremendously experienced, he's a genius when it comes to firearms, but he's
Sir
also
Mark.
got Sir Mark. He's actually been knighted. He just has an incredible resume, as does his wife, in the military. And having him come, and then I'm looking over, and Bart Stella, my right-hand man on this camp since day one, is over there. He's a wilderness expert, and he's teaching you guys. So I'm looking like one group's shooting guns, one group's learning how to make fires from nothing, and everybody is beaten down. It's hot, it's sunny. You're wearing some old heavy vests that we've purchased through Rogue, and you guys are like still smiling and loving life. There was one point where my buddy Mikey, who's on this camp, he's like 40 something years old like me. He's trying to shoot, but he's too tired to hold up the gun. So we had to switch him to prone. But man, it just like, there was so much testosterone in the air. And I say that in the most positive way, because it wasn't really guys puffing their chest. It was guys like very much encouraging each other and working together. And I know from my standpoint, I think this is the first time in a couple of years that I've actually missed being a cop, like being back on that range and teaching you guys some things you've never learned, like getting you guys into positions. I just felt like this fire in my soul. And it was just, I mean, it was awesome for me. And I know watching you guys smile, I could tell it was awesome.
It was such a blast. Like it was things like no blast, big pun there. I go on fishing trips every year, and this year, due to everything, missed it. And that's that guys weekend that is that like, not a release, but it's that time to just like go have fun and like do that cool shit, and who cares about sleeping for the weekend. It was just an amazing experience overall. The cool stuff we did, and seeing more than anything, just seeing those guys was the big thing for me, is seeing those guys who came in, like I said, early on, who just were there because you told them to be, right? And then all of a sudden you see them pushing through their stuff. And we did a lot of self-awareness stuff with Dave Haas, who's been on here, and a lot of people, like crazy stuff. You saw so many leaps and bounds, like emotionally with people. Going through some stuff and digging a little deep by the fire is, think about how you want, but like people really kind of pushed through some personal stuff in their own mind and shared with the group. And it was crazy seeing almost, again, that weight being lifted off some people, and that chest coming up higher and shoulders going down. And it was just like, overall as a group, it was such a fun experience. And so with this, like your initial goal, I know this started last week. So what's next? What do you think is going to come of this? What do you want to come of this camp? Like,
well, you know, I think like the campfire thing, right? We sit around the campfire. Dave Haas is as good as it gets with you know, having you reach deep inside your soul and kind of expose yourself. Men have been sitting around the campfire debriefing situations since the dawn of time, right? And I think that setting made it right. And then there's something to be said about spiritual connectivity, right? Between, you know, you listen to somebody else talk and you're able to relate. And then you're actually, instead of like a normal circumstance where you might judge, you're able to like actually show compassion and empathy, really, which is like, you know, feeling what somebody else is feeling. And that really works well. Where I want this to go, man, is my goal with the garage gym with Tango One Solutions is to positively influence as many people as possible. And, you know, we're already setting another camp up for the spring. I've actually been on the phone. Funny you say that. I was on the phone with Chris Lusso today. I was on the phone with Mark Wolacom today. I was on the phone with Dave Haas yesterday. And you know, I talk to Bart every day. And we're already trying to make the next one better in terms of experience, better in terms of a lot of things. We had a lot of things go in our favor this one. The weather. I mean, you guys were all in your own little small tents, and you know, we can handle that. However, we don't want to destroy the learning process either, because there was a lot of lessons. There was a lot of teaching. We talk about the protector aspect. We chose to teach you guys like some characteristics of an armed person and things like that. And I think those are... Violent crime is not something that is just completely random. If you're aware of your surroundings and your job is to protect your family, I'm not saying, you know, to jump in and pull a knife or anything. I'm saying avoidance is a lot of times is the best. And confidence is a great way to avoid things. And I think that was the purpose. So I think everybody took away something different from this camp. Everybody came out with a different emotional, feeling and perspective on life. And I had a guy to me this morning, Chris Ferrer trains here, says, you know what, I just feel like there's been so much weight lifted off my shoulders. And he said already he's communicating better at home, and he feels like he's communicating better with his family just on some simple tactics, using the word and instead of but.
Yeah.
Like, really, I mean, there's just such simple things that go along with crisis negotiation that apply to life, or that go around with walking into a room full of gangbangers as it is walking down the street of Amherstburg even tonight. There's some things that you can take away from both situations, and I hope we pass that on. I know we pass it on. I can't wait to do it with another group. very,
No.
very soon. And the women, I had the girls in Kingsville today corner me. We were working on it. We want to make sure that we do provide it. It's going to be just as good for you guys, and in your own different way. Because I think like Danny has a lot of skills to provide that we could maybe grow this little Tango One Solutions Blast Camp a different way.
Definitely. Well, overall, the whole weekend I think was a success. You know, we had a few minor scrapes and bruises here and there, nothing too serious. And again, just the lessons taken away from it. Guys becoming leaders in their own field, I think, was the big thing. Being self-aware and being aware of your surroundings was a big lesson. Like what you talked about there is not necessarily attacking somebody if someone's coming out, but being aware of it and being aware of your surroundings, taking a look around, like even something as following a map, right? Looking at landmarks and seeing things that are different, like that book talks about, Left to Bang, is like when something in your gut feels different or looks different, there's a reason to it, right? It's all these things is just like monitoring your situation and acting upon it. And the lessons we learned this weekend through you, through Bart, through Chris Lusso, through Dave, everything was just incredible. And I think it changed a lot of guys' lives. So on behalf probably of everyone who took the camp, thank you. It was a ton of fun and an amazing experience. And I'm definitely excited for the next one and hope I'm involved with it for sure. And
see, you're working your way up. You're working your way up for sure. And man, I appreciate that very much. And the whole idea behind this thing is I really think people probably think we're just going out in the bush shooting guns and lifting things, and
which we do,
and crushing beers, maybe lighting farts on fire. But there was no alcohol had. And I think the one thing that you probably don't think that a bunch of SWAT guys were out there trying to get out information on was like active listening, was the ability to actually just turn the TV off and turn around to your wife or to your child or your significant other and actually listen to them talk and give productive feedback. And I think if everybody here can communicate better, make better decisions, I mean, the world will be a better place, right? Like it seems like so long far-fetched, but that's the ripple effect that we could all have.
Definitely. And
it's a wrap, man. Do more.
That's a wrap.